Well, good afternoon, everyone. As promised, I told you after you watched our interview last night, I told you I was coming back today with Dr. Knowles. I hope you got a chance to see that. If not, it is pinned to our pages. What an amazing man. I am Dr. Jacqueline King, the CEO and founder of Black Women Empowered. And how are you doing today, Dr. Knowles?
Dr. King, I am really, I always say I'm very grateful. I've had ups and downs in my life, as most people have. Uh, as you know, 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, uh, recovered from that, got a knee replacement this year,
Oh,
earlier this year, um, rehabbing from that. But tough times don't last. Tough people do. And
amen.
I refuse to give up. There's no give up in me.
That's very inspiring, and leading me right into my topic. So, you you weren't born into a wealthy family, or were you?
Oh, absolutely not. Uh, my dad, and I tell the story, we were in Gaston, Alabama. That's where I was born. um, Between Birmingham and Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains actually starts in Gaston. About 35, 40,000 people. My dad, he tells this story. Uh, he made it to the third grade. The first day in the third grade, the teacher didn't show up. The second day, the book still hadn't gotten there, and the third day, the school burned down.
Wow.
That's his story, but I don't believe that. I just think that was his story. But my mother, on the other hand, went to high school in Marion, Alabama, with Coretta King and Andrew Young's wife. They were both in the same class. My mother went to the 11th grade, and then she moved to Gaston, Alabama, but took up the torch of desegregation and integration. This little town in Marion, T.D. Jakes is from there. This is a very interesting town of Black people and their leadership uh, that came out of that town. I never went to a Black school growing up in Gaston, Alabama. Think about that now. I was born in 1952. That would have meant I went to elementary school around 1958, and I never went to a Black school. George Wallace was the governor. A lot of us remember that name, so you can imagine what that was like. My dad made $30 a week as a truck driver. My mom made $3 a day as a colored maid. But what they did, their entrepreneurial spirit, my dad convinced the company where he worked to let him have the truck all the time. He would go and tear down old houses and sell all the coppers and metals and wood, buy old used cars and sell all of the parts. My mom, on the other hand, convinced the white woman she worked with to also convince her friends as well, any hand-me-down clothes to give to her, regardless of what their sheets, apparel, whatever it was. And on the weekend, my mother would make these beautiful quilts. So although they didn't make a lot in their daytime job, they did actually better on their evening jobs or weekend jobs where they used entrepreneurship as the core. So no, I actually grew up, Dr. King, on a dirt road with an outside bathroom, an outhouse. So
Wow.
I was far from growing up uh, middle class or blue collar, white collar. I was far from that. I think the word now I've learned a new word called pink collar. Uh, we
Oh,
we were pink collar.
yeah. I hadn't heard the pink collar, and the reason I asked you that is because you're so successful, and we're going to talk to our audience about what success means to you and how to get it. Because a lot of people use excuses. My parents didn't have any money and this and that and that. So that's why I asked you that, because I didn't think that you grew up with a silver spoon. So, but you had hardworking parents, and they had work ethics, which is really important. So that rubbed off on you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. But more than that, there's determination and work ethics. That's one way. And then there's passion and work ethics. My parents was doing, because they were poor, they worked very, very hard because they were determined to make ends meet, as they used to say in the South. Um, what they gave me was the ability to do that I do now every day. I look out the window, I dream, I visualize, uh, I am creative. They gave me that gift to dream big. My mother would always encourage me. What is it you want to be? Uh, you can do that, son. My mother always encouraged. My father encouraged me as well.
So that's a crucial part, is having parents who believe in you and encourage you and push you, right?
So then there's no happenstance that Beyonce and Solange are really third generations, because my grandfather on my mother's side, Dave Hogue, uh, I admired this man. This is like my idol when I was a kid. He was tall, 6'6". He didn't take any stuff from anyone. The first time I ever heard a white man say Mister to a black man was to my grandfather. Uh, he was an entrepreneur as well. Entrepreneurship is generational in our family. So I really had those role models, uh, those mentors. One of the ministers in Gaston, Alabama, Reverend Walker, lived on the same street that I did, and he would stop by and talk to my parents, and he would talk to me. So I had these black men in my life that a lot of our young people today don't have.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I agree 100%. So if you don't have a black father, a father that in your life, what's the alternative as a black man? What's your suggestion?
Well, it's interesting because I'm having a talk this week, and I'm talking about mentorship and mentee. Uh, and what does that mean to be a mentee? It's sometimes as simple, first of all, understanding and having some idea of what your goals and objectives are. What is it that you want to be? And finding someone that's doing that right now, seeking them out and asking. It's real simple. People think this is difficult. It's real simple when you ask someone and say, I want to be the best salesperson. Will you help me? It's as simple as that. So often it's right around you help. It's asking for help. And there's these wonderful mothers. I mean, I talked about my father, but my mother was equally uh, instrumental in my life. So it's not just a male, female, it's parents. It can be either or both.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, I always say that, yeah, you ask a person to assist you. There are only two answers. There's yes or no. But no, in my opinion, is means next opportunity. Go to the next person. You don't quit because you got someone that doesn't want to help you. Would you agree?
Well, I have another definition. My background is sales and marketing. Did 20 years of that in corporate America. So and I smile because I always said if I got a no, that just simply meant I didn't explain it the right way.
Okay.
I never would accept a no. I'm going to go back. You say no, I'm coming back again, and I'm going to have a different explanation. I'm going to do more research and understand better. And if you say no the second time, I'm coming back the third time.
That's the salesperson in you. Most of us don't have that, Dr. Knowles. Kind of a no kind of is like I'm not putting my feelings out there anymore. I already got this no. You know what I mean?
Yeah, mine's just like, he said no. Oh, no, 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 no. Obviously I didn't explain that right. Let me go about it a different way.
That's great. I think that's great. I think that our audience could take that. I could take that too, because for me, if you said no, I'm bye. That's just the way it is. So now you're a father, and you're taking everything that you learned, and you're pouring it into your celebrity daughters, Beyonce and Solange. So if our audience wants to know how to be successful and how to raise successful kids, what would you say?
I always say this. I think a mistake that we often, as parents, make is we want to identify for our kids what they are going to be. I think that's a terrible, terrible mistake. I taught now for 15 years, and occasionally, and unfortunately, often, I get students who parents wanted them to be X and they wanted to be Y. That never works out. I think the role of a parent and the role I played and my former wife, who did an exceptional job, played was to identify what was it that my kids were excited about. What was that thing that they were passionate about? What was that thing that they continually to talk about and identify that? I think the other role of a parent is to give your kids early. I'm talking 4, 5, 6 years old. Give them an array of things. For example, take them to the library. Let them understand science. Do science projects with them. Take them on a field trip. Let them understand history. I let them understand the various things in life they could be, and just kind of, as a parent, be quiet and still and see what it is your kid loves and migrates to. They'll tell you. They'll tell you what they like. I never. It was okay with me with Beyonce and Solange, whatever. They would have said they wanted to be a hairstylist, or if they said they wanted to be a doctor, I would have supported that. The one thing I would have done differently, Dr. King, uh, not done differently, the one thing I would have done is I would have said, in the example of a doctor, go to medical school. And when you get out, I would have bought a hospital. When my former wife said she was tired of being a housewife. She wanted to build a career. And I said, what do you love? What are you passionate about? She said, I love doing hair and styles and fashion. I said, well, why don't you get your cosmetology license? And when you finish, we would have bought a hair salon. And so that's the entrepreneurial part in me. But I never said I want my kids to be this. I wanted them to find their passion. And another thing, while we're on that topic, I think parents have to understand the difference between their kids having a passion and their kids having a hobby. A hobby is when I have to tell you to go to practice. A passion is you tell me, hey, Dad, I don't want to be late for practice. And we have to understand those differences.
It's funny you said that, because my son played football and basketball, and I know he got his son watching football at an early age, but his son plays soccer. My son knew nothing about soccer. So he said, Mom, I had to learn soccer because he didn't want to play football. He wanted to play soccer. So it's a perfect example, for what you just said. The other thing is, so what happens when you have single mom that she wants to do everything to empower her children? I mean, I know that I, I believe that I did as a single mom, but what advice can you give them if they're working like 2 and 3 jobs? The library and all that might not be an option for them.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing. I think the good thing about the difference of when my kids were growing up, we didn't have the technology that we have today. We didn't have the computers, and we're in first generation cell phones, and we didn't have iPads. We didn't have that technology. And I think that the opportunity that today's single mom have is the technology that they can learn to share with their kids to get information.
Yeah, that I agree. Yeah, everything is really, really at your fingertips. Um, and like you said, you can find good, strong mentors that can help your kids. That's one of the things that I did. I surrounded, especially my son, around positive role models. That could pour because I couldn't, as a mother, as a single mother, I couldn't give him the man stuff that he needed. That's impossible. So I made sure that he was involved with, friends of mine who were politicians or professionals or whatever. So I think that's a good thing. So what defines success? You are so into everything, and you said before we came on that you don't quit, and I'm the same way. Um, so what drives you, and how does a person who's not driven get to that place?
Well, let's answer the first one. Let's answer what drives me. Um, Today, what drives me is so different than what drove me 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was driven by number ones, being the number one sales rep, having the my artists winning Grammys and winning awards and having a number one album, record label being number one. That used to drive me 20 years ago. As I've gotten older, life changes. For me, what drives me is happiness. I'm going to be quiet on that because I want people to understand that. I work on happiness each and every day, and you have to work on it. The same energy I put on being the number one and winning all of these plaques and awards, I now put on happiness. I now put on lifestyle changes in healthy living. And I have a wonderful, wonderful wife that I share who's also my best friend. Those are the things that are important to me today. To see my kids that they're healthy and that they're enjoying life. It's not those things that I used to thought happiness was. And I think it's important for me to share that with folks.
Right. And as we get older, of course, yeah, our priorities change. I can relate to you. I was always competitive in the workplace. I wanted to get, the highest ratings. I wanted to get the best job. Yeah, right. So when you get older, yeah, your priorities and what's important to you definitely changes. So how do people get to this success thing? Do you do a class on that? Do you coach on that?
I mentor, but I teach at several universities, University of Houston, Prairie View A&M. I have a music business course in Los Angeles. I literally next week be in a classroom. Um, but more importantly, I'm a public speaker and I speak all over the world. I'll be in Australia today
Oh, wow.
doing a lecture. I'll be in London tomorrow. But talking about the DNA of achievers, talking about entrepreneurship, talking about health and wellness, uh, those are some of my basic topics that I talk about. Um, Talking about also as we are changing how the workplace is, uh, what type of workplace is it, harmonized workplace that you're working in. Those are the type of things and topics that I talk about today.
So, out of your book, and you have book one and book two, DNA of Achievers, right?
Yes, we just came out with a special edition, added 100 more pages. It was very interesting. That was my first of now 5 books. The DNA of Achiever. It's my bestseller as well. The 10 traits of highly successful professionals. And during COVID, I thought it was time to pick up the book, read it again. Um, And then I started thinking about the people because I interviewed a number of people in this book for each chapter. Unfortunately, 4 of them had died.
Mm.
And it made me realize that I needed to refresh that book, understand it, and also give homage to some of those people in the book who had passed away. One of COVID, one of uh, Alzheimer's. But I wanted to refresh the book. I wanted to hear some thoughts of others and some younger people, some of their thoughts on topics like leadership, passion, work ethics, how to build a team, learning from failure. And most of us don't understand and don't embrace failure. Often, when we fail, it should be an opportunity for us to grow from that, to learn from that, to become better. And a lot of people don't look at failure that way. I do. I always say, okay. Matter of fact, the thing that always makes people kind of frown is with Destiny's Child, we used to practice failure. They would rehearse failure. They would go on the stage, they would do their normal practice, not knowing at any time the sound could go out, the lights could go out. We actually would do wardrobe things with buttons and shoes that the shoe might break so that they can be prepared for failure.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Uh, so okay, so first of all, tell how they can get the book because I'm sure that plenty of people are thinking like, okay, I need this book.
Well, you can find out a lot about me just simply by going to MathewKnowles.com. You can book me to speak there. It has the topics there. It has the 5 books there. Certainly, you can go to other places to buy the book, Amazon and others. But the difference is that mine is a lower price, and I'll sign the book and ship it back to you.
Oh, that's nice. So your speaking engagements, where are some of the, I mean, where do you speak other than Australia? And, do you speak at churches? Where do you speak? Some of the places you speak?
I mean, it varies. It varies. Organizations, meetings of organizations, a lot of universities, keynote speeches. It varies. It varies. I've talked to Chamber of Commerce. I can go on and on.
So if they wanted you like corporate America, see, for me, right now, I came out of corporate America. I spent almost 27 years in the electric and gas industry, which is that's a hard industry, honestly, just because it's majority white male driven. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. But thank God I survived. Do you go to corporations as well? Okay.
I do, especially in the areas of sales and marketing and leadership, because that becomes a critical thing. You know, I went back 2 years in a row, 2 summers in a row. I've gone to Harvard, attended Harvard as a student in their professional development. 2 summers ago, ethical leadership. So I do have a seminar based on ethical leadership. Really enjoyed that course. Um, and so I can tailor a seminar or a symposium or a keynote just based around the client. Uh, I've had so much experience, you know, being in corporate America myself, building 3 businesses and selling them. So I've been gifted this opportunity to share, you know, the successes and the failures and the pathway to success. There's a pathway to success.
Absolutely. And being that your daughters and yourself are in entertainment, I know for a fact that you've dealt with some diversity issues. I have a background in diversity. Is that something that you train as well? I mean, it's so needed. I mean, just to me, just understanding and embracing different cultures to me is like we're moving away from that.
Yeah, I do. It's called a harmonized workplace versus a unified workplace. That's the title, and it talks about that diversity and what diversity is, and what does that mean. Um, and I've added because this past summer I took cultural intelligence CV at Harvard, taught me a whole lot that we don't understand. In America, we're just so uncomfortable talking about different cultures. The way that a Black person approaches a problem, and a way that a Asian American approaches a problem, and a way that a white American approaches a problem is different, and it's based on our culture. And we should embrace that. Instead, we try to force everybody in the workplace to do it this way versus embracing that, oh, there's a different way that I haven't thought about to do this. We need to do more of that in America. We are so uncomfortable. I'm a Black man. I do things differently than a white man. I'm not shy or embarrassed about that. I'm all day working with white men. We do it differently. I look at them like, why the hell you do it that way? That's the hard way. And they might look at things I do and ask us and say the same thing. We're culturally different. Thus, we approach everything in our life differently. And that's not a negative. That's not a throw down on any other culture. That's just saying, hey, let me understand your culture. I give you an example. You go into a store and you buy a coat, and the lady says to you, oh, that coat doesn't look right on you. Now, some people would think, oh, she's saying that coat is too big, right? When in fact, that's not what she was saying, because in her culture, she was saying that it was too small.
Hmm.
We had example after example. One of the examples, just to show the differences in culture, uh, example was if we were on a boat and the boat was sinking, and there was a mother, father, and 2 kids, and unfortunately, unfortunately, someone had to get off the boat so that the boat wouldn't sink. Who would it be? In Asian culture, it would be the kids because the parents are the most important. In American culture, it would be the parents. We're culturally different. So I talk about that.
And that is true. but when I was working in diversity, here's what I also saw is if you take a piece of that culture and a piece of this culture and piece it all together, a lot of times you can come up with really good solutions. Did you find that?
Well, it's like a beautiful quilt. I mean, that's what a quilt is. Exactly. And you're absolutely correct. But we have to take the first step in understanding and embracing, first understanding the other cultures and how they work and how they think and uh, what the things that are important to them. Um, it just takes that effort that we're still in America so uncomfortable. I still see black people whenever they say white people, they gotta whisper, "Oh, those white people." Why you gotta whisper white people? Why the heck do you have to whisper when you say white people? We still got a lot of that we gotta get out of us. I don't, at Sony Music, we used to have meetings, and it would be, well, the pop department and the urban department. And I would say, look, that's full of BS. Let's stop calling it that. Let's call it what it is. When you're saying pop, you're talking to white. And when you're saying urban, you're saying black. And they changed. They got comfortable with saying that. The black music and, let's talk about it. Let's stop hiding it. Let's stop feeling uncomfortable about race and culture.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 1,000%. Um, Sometimes I feel like we've come a long way, but it seems like we might be digressing now. Uh, with races and stuff, and I'm like, where's all this coming from?
Well,
Um,
it's very clear where it's coming from. I mean, it's very clear. And I said this years and years ago when this social media thing started, that would be the downfall, and especially a lot of our black children. Um, and that has become a real challenge. I was just watching CNN last night, and it was talking about Facebook and how they identify pre-teenagers. I mean, these companies have identified our young people and how to take them down a wrong path. And parents need to understand that. Uh, our kids spend pick up a phone over 2,000 times a day. That's a tremendous amount of hours that our kids are just picking up a phone. Our kids now have lost self-esteem because of the word liked. Now you can just hit a button, liked. And the people don't even respond now. When you say, hey, did you see the game? Liked. There's no conversation. We're such into a like world now. Everybody's trying to be liked. Nobody has self-worth. Most people aren't building a self-worth and an identity for themselves. They're going to social media for that. And this whole thing about where we are with the vaccination, a lot of that is coming from social media, not understanding that other countries, they want us, they want us to fail. When the presidential election, it was proven the Russians, who did they pick to go on social media to do the Jedi mind trick? Black people.
well, yeah, and even with the politicians, they do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Uh, so we have to have our use our own minds and research for ourselves to know. I mean, uh, it's to me. There's a lot of adults that are on social media, and they stay on. I know you see it. They stay on social media all.
I think you froze for a minute there, Dr. King. Are you still with us? Are you still with us? I think you were.
Still here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know. I think yeah. So I think that adults too are getting lost in the social media thing. On there all day long. Liking, posting, whatever. So it's not just the kids.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't know. You asked a question that I'm sure I know. I don't know. The people I know, they don't spend time on social media. None of the people that I know do that. Successful people don't do that. It's just not something. We have so many hours in a day. Is how can we maximize the day? How can we spend time for ourselves and our family? I don't want to. I would care less about going on social media. Um, I was Nikki Giovanni spoke at Prairie View, and she started out her conversation. There's a lot of fools out there, and we can't help them all, and that's a fact. We can't help all the people. We just stay steadfast in our belief. Uh, those that want to get help, that want to uh, desire to be better, those that aspire to be better, want to learn more, they'll come, and there'll be many that won't. And we have to continue our focus on the positive.
And that's why you're here, because you are an inspiration, and that's what we do. We try to bring people on that are inspiring, encouraging, and uplifting. Dr. Knowles, you are, to me, it's always a blessing to be with you. One more time before we leave, tell them how they can book you, give your website, any Twitter, whatever you want to give, share with our audience, please.
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. King. It's always a pleasure. I always learn from you, and we just have a conversation, and that's what I enjoy. Uh,
Yes, sir.
I always say that in my vulnerability lies my safety. So when I do teach or give a speech or presentation, often it's just from my heart, and it's from life experiences, and I share not just the positives but the things that didn't go well, because everything is not always good in our lives. That's why I love um, that chapter is one chapter that I really like in the DNA of Achievers. Of course, I do. I wrote it, and I failure is an opportunity to grow and not a reason to quit, and I live by that motto. But if you want to understand and know what I'm doing, it's simple. You just go to MathewKnowles.com, and it tells the events that are upcoming that I'll be speaking at. It'll tell you how to book me to speak, all the topics. It'll tell you all of my social media handles. Social media for me is just giving information. It's not for me. I don't use it in a personal way. I use it in an informative messaging. That's how I use social media. So I am on social media giving information. So it's again simple as going to MathewKnowles.com. But I'd be remiss if I just didn't end this with, it's real important. We still have a ton of people who have not gotten vaccinated. And
Please, yes.
I, for one, would love to go back to normal. Uh, and I'm going to wear a mask when required, and I'm not going to even hesitate. I'm fortunate. I've gotten both of my Moderna shots. I've gotten my third Moderna booster shot, uh, and it's just a plea to those to understand there's a trickle effect of not getting vaccinated, and that is your chances of being sick are high. Your chances of being sick and dying are high. Your chance of getting other people sick are high. The chances of my daughters going back to normal and having concerts, uh, they're affected by this. The chances of me public speaking on a stage, I'm affected financially by this. And there's many, many, many people affected in so many ways because simply somebody don't want to get a vaccine. And I'm going to say this. Your show will be the first I said it. And I've thought about this. A lot of it has to do with fear. No one said this. I'm going to be one of the first probably to say it. It's the fear of getting a shot. Nobody said that. I'm going to say it. We made a mistake in showing on TV over and over again people getting shot. Imagine the people that have been traumatized by needles. I'm traumatized to go to the dentist. There's a lot of people traumatized. So let's admit it. Some of you, it's as simple as you just are frightened to get a shot. Go and get the vaccine. It takes 2 seconds. You barely feel it. I had to say that. I had to say
No,
that.
I thank you for saying that, and I agree. I agree 1,000%. Someone said to me the other day that you know, you don't know what's in this vaccine. You don't know what the long-term effects are going to be, and that's why I won't get it because you don't know what the long-term effects. I said, okay, well, think about this. I may not know what the long-term effects may be, but I know what the short-term is if I don't get it. I have a very high risk of dying. And I said, and there's no coming back. You can't come back and say, I wish I had got the shot. You've seen the people that are on life support saying, oh, give me the shot. It's too late.
It's too late.
It is
and
late.
I've heard many people say exactly that, Dr. King. I don't know what's in it. And they have a soda or iced tea or a glass of wine, and I'm saying, what's in that? Or they're eating a meal, and I'm saying, what's in that? Or they said, oh, I took 3 aspirins. I took my medication. What's in that? Let's not use that as an excuse because you don't and we don't know what's in a lot of things. What I do know is that there's too many Black people involved with this science for it to be a conspiracy. One of the top leaders in this vaccine is a Black woman. There's too many Black doctors that would let this be a conspiracy. It's too many of us.
Absolutely.
And if this is a conspiracy and Black people will allow this to be a conspiracy, it's a wrap. Because if they allow this to be a conspiracy, it's going to be some real bad stuff happen. But that's not going to happen. And it's not happening. It's fear now. Fear and political. We still have the political side that still believe everything that man said. I won't even say his name.
Well, and then the other part, I'm glad you brought this up. The other part is, you hear the church people, I'm going to go there. My pastor said, we don't have faith if we just believe in God. Do you know how many, and I don't know if this is the accurate count, but at one time there was 30 bishops in the Church of God in Christ, which is my grandfather pastored alone, that died from COVID. 30.
Yeah, I did read that. Look, I believe in faith. I'm not an advocate of religion because there's many of them, but I believe anyone that has faith in whatever your faith is, I support that. I don't support the thought that one is better than the other, as long as we have faith. But I believe in science. My 20 years in diagnostic was in diagnostic imaging, selling MRI and CT scanners, and being a neurosurgical specialist, and selling mammography equipment. I understand science. I've seen it on a daily basis in an operating room or in radiology. It's a factual thing. And I'm saddened when we convince people that their faith alone, and that's not just this vaccine. This goes deeper in the Black community, as, for example, in breast cancer, Black women mortality rate is significantly higher than their white counterparts. When we look at overall the mortality rate, the death rate of Black men in overall diseases, based on the percentage of Black men we have in America, we lead in every category of death. We lead in every category of death except breast cancer and suicide. And a lot of that is because of early detection, lack of early detection. And in a lot of cases, the belief that something or someone else can save them other than science, which is grossly untrue. You know, it's faith, but you have to do the early detection. You have to do the science part of it, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
No, I agree, and even the Bible says, "My people perish from the lack of knowledge." And if you're not, you know, accepting the knowledge of the science, then you are really setting yourself up for failure. I am so glad that you brought this up. I have talked about this before, but not this extensively. And I do have friends who say they're not getting the vaccination. They know this and that. And all I can do is say, well, you know, then deal with the consequences. What can I say?
You know, I'm okay. If somebody doesn't want to get the vaccine, I'm at this place now. I'm actually okay. That's your right that you have. That's your belief. But let's put those people all in an area so it don't
When they're
affect
all coming
those of,
together.
so it don't affect those of us that do. So it doesn't affect that I have to wear a mask. It doesn't affect that I can't do certain things for entertainment or for a livelihood. Don't let it affect me. It's okay if you don't want to do that, but it's affecting other people. That's the part I have a problem with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like that. And yeah, that would be nice. But anyway, I know you got to go. I thank you so much. Again, I'll put your website on our pages so that the people, and we've gotten, so I'm looking at the comments. The people who are commenting is very positive. They said they really enjoyed it. Thank you for your information. So until the next time, until you get me, I'm still waiting on an interview with Solange. I didn't hear back from you on that. I'm still waiting.
I tell you, that's Solange. She's a moving target. I tell you.
But God bless you. Thank you so much, Dr. Knowles. And you take care of yourself. Safe travels, okay?
All right. Thank you, Dr. King. Have a great day.
Thank you.